Good evening. Welcome to the Other 24 Report. I'm Seymour Guff, and this is what's happening. So, what is all the hubbub around the theory that Justin Trudeau is actually the son of Fidel Castro? Is there any evidence that supports those claims? Well, let's take a look back, shall we? Pierre Elliott Trudeau was the Prime Minister of Canada in 1968 when he was 49 years old. And at that time, he started dating a young 20-year-old Margaret Sinclair. Let's see, that's almost a 30-year difference. Pierre, you old dog. Wait, but I'm sure that it was totally respectful and up to the standards of representing the office he held at the time, right? Let's go back to the archives with Pierre and Margaret.
Mr. Prime Minister, you have been described as a 49-year-old playboy by the press, given your many relationships, including Margot Kidder, Kim Cattrall, and Barbara Streisand. And now it has been reported that you are currently dating a young Margaret Sinclair, an unstable 20-year-old flower child. Do you have any comments?
What? She told me she was 36.
Nope, barely 20.
Well, officially I am shocked, but on the other hand, that's awesome. I guess I had better lock that one down and marry her before she comes to her senses.
In fact, Pierre Trudeau did secretly marry Margaret Sinclair in March of 1971 in Vancouver. And it was reported that they spent their honeymoon in Whistler, British Columbia. But what about their extended honeymoon? Where was that? It was in the Caribbean, to Barbados, Tobago, the Grenadines, and while in the Caribbean, their itinerary included a chartered plane trip to a nearby unidentified island. Let's see, what island is nearby? Given that the Trudeaus had confessed their admiration for Fidel Castro, it seems that a visit there would not be out of the question. Pierre had demonstrated his fascination with Castro early on, when in 1961, Pierre Trudeau attempted to row across from Florida to Cuba in a canoe to meet Castro, and that started their friendship.
Some of Trudeau's travels in the 1950s contributed to his reputation as a radical. He didn't worry about it. He attended an economics conference in Moscow and wrote about it for Le Devoir. He would eventually visit communist China, and he came here to Cuba in the early days of the Castro regime. All this at a time when anti-communist hysteria was raging in North America. His 1961 attempt to row a jerry-rigged canoe from Florida to Cuba was a source of great amusement to Fidel Castro, whom Trudeau encountered at the time and with whom he eventually developed a close friendship.
Acusado de ser un comunista porque he traído armas hasta Cuba, hasta la revolución.
Trudeau was accused of trying to smuggle arms to the Cuban revolutionaries in his canoe. Castro says it would have been more useful at the time if Trudeau had brought him an aircraft carrier.
So, Pierre Trudeau knew and admired Fidel Castro, and all three of them, Fidel Castro, Pierre Trudeau, and Margaret Trudeau, were well known for their wild sexual escapades. Castro insiders claim that Castro's huge sexual appetite resulted in him having at least 2 encounters a day with various women, accumulating thousands of sexual partners. Who does this guy think he is? Wilt Chamberlain? Meanwhile, Pierre Trudeau would often have 2 or more girlfriends at an event at the same time and bragged about it, and was known to pursue young, attractive girls with his charm. Well, it certainly wasn't his good looks. Now, Margaret was a wild child and practiced free love before she was with Pierre, and was a regular at Studio 54 after she separated from Pierre. Do we have the archive interview clip ready?
Mrs. Trudeau, do you think your behavior at Studio 54, going commando, is fitting as a representative of Canada?
Well, the beaver is the national symbol of Canada, isn't it?
I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
You've been linked to many sexual relationships and odd behavior. You have had encounters with Ted Kennedy, Ronnie Wood, Mick Jagger, and Jack Nicholson, to name just a few.
Hey, sexual attraction is a strong force, and the force was strong with me.
Margaret Trudeau's sexual exploits were before, during, and after her marriage to Pierre Trudeau. So, to speculate that she had an encounter with Fidel Castro during her 1971 trip to the Caribbean does not seem that far-fetched, especially when you see the way she fawned over Castro during their 1976 visit to Cuba. She already seemed quite familiar with Castro. It doesn't really appear to be a first meeting between the two of them. Do we have any film from the archives of interviews with Castro on Margaret's supposed visit to Cuba back in 1971? Oh, okay, good. Let's see it.
Mr. Castro, the Trudeaus are on an extended honeymoon in the Caribbean, and some say that Margaret Trudeau visited you here in Cuba. Is that true?
Maybe. I'm not sure since I have many women come and go. I can't keep track.
Surely you would remember the wife of the Prime Minister of Canada.
It does sound familiar. I like that Trudeau guy. He is one of my favorite communists. His wife is sexy too.
So you do remember her?
Maybe.
Justin Trudeau was born on December 25th, 1971, 9 months after the supposed visit of Margaret Trudeau to Cuba in March. Let's take a closer look at the resemblance between Justin and Fidel. I will leave assessment of those comparisons up to you. Also, if we look at the height, Justin Trudeau is at least 6'3". Pierre Trudeau was only 5'10", and Margaret is 5'6" tall, and Castro was 6'3" tall. Unless Justin is wearing 6-inch stilettos, which is not out of the question, this height difference is somewhat suspect. So again, this tends to support the claim from a physical attribute perspective. Furthermore, Justin's true admiration of communist regimes like China, Russia, and Cuba are well documented, and his glowing tribute to Castro after his death raised more than a few eyebrows, while fully admitting that Castro was in fact a dictator.
Many would agree, given Fidel Castro's brutal repression of his political opponents and the fact his one-party system kept him in power for nearly half a century. The problem for Justin Trudeau is that yesterday, in front of an international audience at a meeting of La Francophonie, he called Castro a longtime friend of Canada.
Un ami de longue date du Canada et de ma famille.
Trudeau went even further in a statement, calling Castro a legendary revolutionary and orator, as well as a larger-than-life leader who served his people for almost half a century, which doesn't sound like a dictator. In fact, Trudeau also noted that he met Castro when his father passed away, and that Pierre Trudeau was proud to call Castro a friend. So how does that square with this? Do you think Fidel Castro was a dictator?
Yes.
Trudeau's ongoing record of abuse to Canadians' fundamental civil liberties are many. His use of the Emergencies Act to quash peaceful protests, use of government police violence against non-violent citizens, the seizing of Canadians' bank accounts who disagree with the government without legal process, silencing those with unacceptable views, controlling media and censoring the internet, canceling any commentary that opposes the government, and the unjust arrests of political opponents. These do all seem to fit with the actions of a dictator. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like father, like son. Make up your own mind. So that's what's happening. I'm Seymour Guff, signing off until next time. Keep asking questions and looking for answers. Everyone has 24 hours in their day. Which 24 will you live?